I stood in VP Gregory Thornton's corner office at Meridian Solutions, watching him lean back in his leather chair with that smug smile I had seen too many times. His nephew Brandon stood beside him, arms crossed, radiating entitlement. Gregory's voice dripped with condescension as he said, "My nephew is more qualified than you. See his Ravenwood MBA? We did you a favor hiring you 7 years ago. No degree, no pedigree." The words hit like a slap. My chest tightened, but I kept my face calm. I looked at Brandon, then back at Gregory, and said simply, "Congratulations to him." I turned and walked out, my heels clicking against the marble floor. At my desk, I started packing my things into a cardboard box, my hands trembling slightly as I placed my coffee mug inside. I sat in my car in the parking garage, the cardboard box on the passenger seat beside me. I couldn't start the engine yet. My hands gripped the steering wheel as 7 years of memories flooded back. I was 26 when Meridian Solutions hired me, fresh from community college with just an associate's degree in business administration. I had walked into that interview knowing I was the underdog. I grew up in Gary, Indiana, where my father worked at the steel factory and my mother served lunch in the elementary school cafeteria. We didn't have money for a 4-year university. When my father got injured in a workplace accident during my 2nd year at community college, I had to help support my twin brothers. They were still in high school, with college dreams of their own, but I was determined. I studied harder than anyone, networked relentlessly, and when I sat across from Gregory Thornton that first day, I convinced him to take a chance on me despite the gap in my resume. He was just a department head then, not yet a vice president. He told me I had potential but would need to prove myself every single day. I promised I would, and I did. That first year, I worked 70-hour weeks. I learned everything I could about our clients' industries, staying late to read reports, studying market trends on weekends, making myself indispensable. I answered emails at midnight and took calls on Sundays. I wasn't just doing a job. I was building a career from scratch, brick by brick. In year 2, I saved the Patterson manufacturing account. Their previous consultant had dropped the ball on a critical supply chain analysis, and they were ready to walk away from Meridian entirely. I stayed up 3 nights straight, drinking coffee until my hands shook, creating a comprehensive supply chain optimization plan that addressed every one of their concerns. When I presented it, their CEO actually stood up and shook my hand. That account was worth $175,000 annually. Gregory took me to lunch to celebrate, then presented my work to the board as a team effort. Year 3 brought my first major win that was entirely mine. I met the CEO of Lakeside Healthcare at a community business networking event. We talked for 2 hours about the challenges in healthcare administration, and I realized Meridian could help them. I pitched them personally, developed a customized proposal, and closed the deal. $200,000 in annual revenue, and it came from my hustle, my relationship building, my vision. Gregory was thrilled. He gave me a small bonus and a plaque that said Rising Star. I put it on my desk and worked even harder. In year 4, Gregory got promoted to vice president. I was happy for him. I thought maybe this meant opportunities for me too. Instead, something shifted. He started taking credit for my client relationships in board meetings. I would sit there, listening to him describe strategies I had developed, pitches I had made, relationships I had nurtured, and he would present them as his leadership. When I gently pointed this out once, he smiled and said, "Marie, we're a team. My success is your success." Year 5 was when the resentment started to build, though I pushed it down. Meridian hired 3 new consultants, all with bachelor's degrees from respectable universities. I was assigned to train them. They were professional enough, but I noticed how they looked at me. When they learned I only had a community college degree, their respect dimmed. One of them, a guy named Connor with a degree from Northwestern, actually asked me to grab him coffee during a meeting. I was his supervisor. I got the coffee, smiled, and added it to the list of small humiliations I swallowed. But I kept performing. Year 6 brought Heartland Retail Group, and this was the big one. Their CEO, Thomas Aldridge, was notoriously difficult to impress. 3 consulting firms had pitched him before Meridian even got a shot. I spent 2 months researching his company, understanding his vision, identifying inefficiencies others had missed. When I finally sat down with him, I didn't give him a generic presentation. I showed him I understood his business better than some of his own executives did. He signed a contract worth $500,000 annually. It was the biggest deal Meridian had closed in 3 years. Gregory threw a party. He gave a speech thanking the team, his leadership, Meridian's excellent reputation. He mentioned my name once, in passing, as part of our talented staff. I smiled and applauded like everyone else. By year 7, I was managing 12 major accounts. I generated $3.2 million in annual revenue. But more than that, I had built real relationships. I didn't just manage accounts like they were numbers on a spreadsheet. I knew these people. I remembered that Thomas Aldridge's daughter was starting college at Princeton. I sent her a congratulations card. I knew that Dr. Angela Rodriguez at Lakeside Healthcare loved orchids, so when her hospital opened a new wing, I sent an orchid arrangement instead of generic roses. I knew that the CEO of Patterson Manufacturing, Gerald Patterson, was a Vietnam veteran who loved talking about his service. I always asked about his time in the Navy before we discussed business. My clients didn't call the Meridian main line. They called my cell phone directly. They texted me on weekends. They invited me to company events. Some of them had become genuine friends. I wasn't just their consultant. I was their trusted advisor, their problem solver, their partner. And then Brandon Thornton showed up 3 months ago. Gregory's nephew. 25 years old, fresh out of Ravenwood University with a shiny MBA and an even shinier sense of entitlement. Gregory assigned him to me for mentoring. I was patient. I tried to teach him what I knew. He ignored half my advice and spent the other half explaining business concepts back to me that I had just taught him. He called it synergistic ideation and disruptive value propositions. He showed up late to client meetings. He submitted reports with typos. He treated our assistants like servants. This morning, everything came to a head. Gregory called a department meeting and announced that Brandon was being promoted to senior account manager, the same level I had worked 7 years to reach. Brandon had been there 3 months. When I pulled Gregory aside after the meeting to ask about a raise that would reflect my actual value to the company, he laughed. Actually laughed. That's when he said the words that would change everything. And now I sat in my car, my phone buzzing in my purse. I pulled it out and saw an email from Gregory's assistant. The subject line read, "Termination effective. Immediately." My heart stopped. I opened it. "Your termination is effective immediately. Please return your key card to security by end of day. Brandon Thornton will be handling your accounts going forward. Thank you for your service to Meridian Solutions." I read it 3 times. They didn't just humiliate me. They fired me. 7 years of loyalty, of grinding, of making them millions, and they fired me to make room for Gregory's underqualified nephew. My hands shook, but not with fear anymore. With rage. And beneath the rage, something colder and clearer. Determination. I started my car and drove home, my mind already working through possibilities. I got to my 1-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Park just as the sun was setting. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I walked straight to my dining table and spread out 7 years of client files, notes, and contact information. These were my personal copies, records I had kept for my own reference, completely legal to possess. I sat down and started thinking strategically. My employment contract had a standard non-compete clause. I pulled it out and read it carefully for the first time in years. It restricted me from working for direct competitors for 6 months. It said nothing about starting my own independent consultancy. It said nothing about what happened if clients chose to follow me of their own free will. I couldn't solicit them directly, but if they came to me asking for help, that was their choice. I mapped out my 12 major accounts on a notepad. Next to each one, I wrote their contract renewal date with Meridian. 8 of them renewed within the next 90 days. I wrote down their biggest pain points, their goals, their frustrations. I knew 4 of them had privately complained to me about Meridian's increasingly impersonal, corporate approach. They felt like account numbers, not partners. I looked at the calendar. It was Friday evening. I had an entire weekend to plan. Saturday morning, I woke up at 6 and got to work. First, I registered Marie Castellano Consulting LLC online. It cost $150 and took 30 minutes. I had a business name, legal structure, and tax identification number before I finished my first cup of coffee. Next, I built a simple website. Nothing fancy, just professional. I showcased my expertise in operations optimization, strategic planning, and business transformation. I didn't mention any client names. I didn't mention Meridian. I just presented myself, Marie Castellano, independent business consultant with 7 years of experience helping companies achieve sustainable growth. I set up a business email address, a business phone number through a virtual service. I created a LinkedIn profile identifying myself as an independent consultant. I opened a business bank account at the credit union down the street. By Saturday afternoon, I had a fully functional consulting business. The total cost was less than $500. Now came the delicate part. I wrote a short, dignified announcement for LinkedIn. I read it over 10 times, making sure it struck exactly the right tone. After 7 wonderful years in corporate consulting, I'm excited to announce a new chapter. I've launched Marie Castellano Consulting LLC to provide personalized business consulting services. I look forward to partnering with companies that value authentic relationships and customized solutions. Onward to new adventures. Short, professional. No mention of Meridian. No bitterness. No bridge burning. I posted it Saturday evening at 8. By 9, 3 former clients had commented with congratulations. By 10, I had 2 direct messages. The first was from Dr. Angela Rodriguez at Lakeside Healthcare. Marie, we should talk. Call me Monday. The second was from Thomas Aldridge at Heartland Retail Group. Congratulations on the new venture. Let's have a conversation early next week. I stared at my phone. It was actually happening. By Sunday morning, 7 of my 12 major clients had reached out privately. Then my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I answered cautiously. Marie Castellano. Marie, it's Sharon Brennan. Sharon was the executive assistant at Meridian, who handled all client communications. She was 58 years old, had worked there for 20 years, and had always been kind to me. Her voice was quiet, almost conspiratorial. Sharon, hi. Is everything okay? I wanted you to know something. 5 clients called Friday afternoon after you left. They specifically asked to speak with you. Gregory told them you'd been let go and that Brandon would handle everything now. My stomach tightened. What did they say? 3 of them asked for your personal contact information. I wasn't supposed to give it out, but I thought you should know something else. My last day is Friday, too. Gregory cut my hours to 20 per week so he could hire Brandon's girlfriend as a social media coordinator. I'm 68 years old in March. I'm retiring early. Sharon, I'm so sorry. Don't be. I'm relieved, honestly. But Marie, I wanted to help you before I go. She proceeded to give me detailed information about all the contract renewal dates, recent client satisfaction scores, and upcoming projects that Brandon had already been assigned to handle. It was a gold mine of strategic intelligence. Why are you doing this? I asked. Her voice was warm. Because you were always the heart of that company, honey. Gregory forgot that consulting is about people, not credentials. Go show them what you're worth. After we hung up, I sat holding my phone, overwhelmed by her generosity. Then it rang again. Thomas Aldridge from Heartland Retail Group. Marie, sorry to call on a Sunday. No problem at all, Thomas. What's going on? Meridian sent Brandon to our Sunday leadership retreat. He was supposed to present some preliminary ideas for next quarter. Thomas' voice was tight with frustration. He pitched us something he called a disruptive synergistic realignment strategy. Do you know what that even means? Not really, I admitted. Neither do we. It would cost us $400,000 and basically undo everything you've built with us over the past 2 years. Marie, I told Gregory that if you're not our consultant, we're not renewing our contract. He told me you'd been fired for performance issues. My face burned. That's not true. I know it's not. You've been the best consultant we've ever worked with. So here's my question. Are you available? My heart pounded. I am. I just launched my own consultancy. Good. Send me a proposal by Wednesday. We want you, not Meridian. And Marie, I'm calling Angela Rodriguez at Lakeside tonight. She'll want to know you're available too. After I hung up, I sat in stunned silence. This wasn't just damage control. This was an actual path forward. A real business. My business. Monday morning, Gregory Thornton arrived at Meridian Solutions feeling confident. He had handled the Marie situation. Brandon was settling into her accounts. Everything was under control. By noon, his world was falling apart. I heard about it later from Sharon, who was still there observing the chaos. 6 of my 12 former accounts contacted Meridian that morning. Heartland Retail Group wanted to speak with Gregory urgently. Lakeside Healthcare left a message about contract discussions. Patterson Manufacturing sent an email asking about my departure. Midwest Industrial Supply, Silver Lake Financial, and 2 others all reached out with similar inquiries. Gregory called an emergency meeting with Brandon to coach him on client retention. According to Sharon, Brandon was panicking. He had surface-level knowledge of most accounts but couldn't answer detailed questions about their operations, goals, or ongoing projects. Meanwhile, I had 3 video meetings scheduled. I presented simple, personalized consulting proposals to each client. My rates were 20 to 30% lower than Meridian's corporate pricing, because I had no office overhead, no layers of management, no corporate bureaucracy. But more importantly, I offered something Meridian couldn't: direct access to me, individual attention, customized solutions, and the relationship we had already built. All 3 verbally committed to switching once their Meridian contracts expired. Then Midwest Industrial Supply, whose contract had a 30-day cancellation clause, sent me an official email canceling Meridian immediately and hiring me effective the following week. 1 down, 8 potentially to go. Tuesday morning, Gregory called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. His voice was artificially friendly. Marie, let's talk about this. Maybe we were hasty. We could discuss a senior VP position, better compensation, more autonomy. I kept my voice calm and professional. I appreciate the call, Gregory, but am very happy with my new direction. I'm not soliciting any Meridian clients. They're reaching out to me on their own. That's their choice to make. His tone hardened instantly. You signed a non-compete. I'll have legal look into this. Please do. I've already had an attorney review my contract. I'm not competing with Meridian. I'm an independent consultant, and am not soliciting anyone. Have a good day, Gregory. I hung up. My hands were steady. I felt powerful. Tuesday afternoon brought the disaster that would seal Meridian's fate. Brandon had a meeting with Heartland Retail Group to reassure them about the transition. According to what Thomas told me later, Brandon showed up 15 minutes late. He called Thomas by the wrong name, saying Trevor instead of Thomas. He presented a generic slideshow that he had clearly used for another client because it kept referencing manufacturing optimization for a retail company. When Thomas asked specific questions about their current inventory management project, Brandon couldn't answer them. Thomas ended the meeting after 20 minutes and called Gregory immediately to terminate their contract in 30 days as their agreement allowed. That evening, I got a call that changed everything. Patricia Hammond, CEO of Silver Lake Financial. Marie, I hope you don't mind me calling. Thomas Aldridge gave me your number. Not at all, Patricia. How can I help you? I heard you've gone independent. My company is still looking for a consultant. We actually approached Meridian about 6 months ago, but they never followed up with us. I remembered that pitch. I had wanted to pursue it, but Gregory said the account was too small, at $150,000 annually, not worth his time. I'd love to talk with you about your needs, I said. We scheduled a meeting for Thursday. After I hung up, I realized something significant. This wasn't even a Meridian client. This was someone who had wanted to work with Meridian but was ignored. How many others were out there? Late Tuesday night, an email arrived that made me gasp. Jason Carver, COO of Heartland Retail Group, had sent me a document. The subject line read, "People you should meet." I opened it. 8 companies, all mid-sized businesses in Heartland's network, all with contact information and notes about what consulting services they needed. Jason's message was simple. Thomas wanted you to have these. has been singing your praises to everyone in our CEO circle. Consider these warm leads. You saved our company 2 years ago with that inventory system overhaul. We don't forget that. I stared at the screen. 8 potential new clients, all with budgets between $150,000 and $300,000 annually. If I signed even half of them, my revenue would exceed what I had generated for Meridian. I wasn't just taking my old clients. I was building something bigger than Meridian ever let me build. My annual revenue potential had just jumped from $3.2 million to potentially over $4 million, and it would all be mine. Wednesday morning, Gregory sat in a conference room with Meridian's 3 founding partners for an emergency board meeting. I learned the details later from Sharon, who was asked to take notes. The numbers were devastating. 8 of my 12 accounts had either canceled their contracts or formally stated they would not renew. Total projected revenue loss, $2.4 million annually. That was 75% of what I had generated for the company. Brandon had been assigned to manage the remaining 4 accounts, plus 3 others. In less than a week, he had already forgotten a critical deadline for one client and accidentally sent another client's confidential report to the wrong company. Elizabeth Crane, the senior founding partner who had started Meridian 30 years ago, was furious. She was 62 years old, sharp as a knife, and had built the company from nothing. She looked directly at Gregory and asked, "Why did you fire your highest performer?" Gregory tried to deflect. Marie was becoming difficult. She wasn't a team player. Her lack of formal education was setting a bad precedent for our hiring standards. Elizabeth cut him off. Her lack of degree? She generated 38% of our revenue. Who cares about her degree? David Wu, another founding partner, added, "Clients don't pay for credentials, Gregory. They pay for results." Marie delivered results consistently for 7 years. Gregory mentioned Brandon's MBA, his potential, his fresh perspective. Elizabeth's voice was ice. His potential doesn't pay our bills. Mary's actual performance did. You have 30 days to stop this bleeding. Get those clients back, or we'll be having a different conversation about your position. Gregory left the meeting pale and shaken. While Gregory was getting dressed down by the board, I was signing my first completely new client, Silver Lake Financial, $150,000 in annual revenue. Patricia Hammond and I connected immediately. She appreciated my direct, no-nonsense approach and my willingness to truly listen to her company's unique challenges. Thursday brought Gregory's desperate gambit. He showed up unannounced at Lakeside Healthcare with Brandon in tow, demanding a meeting with Dr. Angela Rodriguez. According to what Angela told me later with barely concealed amusement, it was painful to watch. Gregory promised massive discounts, premium service packages, dedicated support teams. Angela listened politely, then said, "Gregory, it's not about price. It's about trust." Marie called me personally when my mother was hospitalized last year, just to check in. She sent flowers. She remembered my daughter's college graduation date and sent her a congratulations card. She knows our business inside and out, and more than that, she knows us as people. Can Brandon say the same? Gregory had no answer. Angela handed him a formal cancellation letter. Their contract would end in 45 days. I found out about this meeting because Angela called me immediately afterward. "Marie, I just wanted you to know, we're with you. We've already drafted a contract for your review. Same scope of work as before, but we're paying you directly now." Angela, thank you. This means everything to me. No, thank you. You've shown us what real consulting looks like. It's not about fancy offices and corporate credentials. It's about someone who genuinely cares about our success. That same day, I signed Crossroads Manufacturing, a company from Jason's referral list, $200,000 annually. I also got a call from an attorney named Laura Hendricks, who specialized in business consulting disputes. "Marie, I've been hearing about your situation through the business community. I want to make sure you're protected. Let me review your contracts pro bono and ensure Meridian can't come after you legally." I met with her Friday morning. She reviewed everything: my employment contract, non-compete clause, my new client agreements. After an hour, she looked up and smiled. "You're completely in the clear. They have no legal ground whatsoever." You didn't solicit clients. You didn't violate your non-compete. You're simply good at what you do, and people want to work with you. That's not illegal. That's the free market. I felt relief wash over me. I was safe. I was legitimate. I was winning. Friday afternoon, Gregory called again. This time, he wasn't friendly. You're destroying what I built. Something snapped inside me. My voice came out cold and steady. What you built? Then Sharon told me the final piece of news. Brandon had quit that morning. He told Gregory the job was too stressful, and he was going back to business school for another degree. Gregory looked 10 years older than he had 2 weeks ago. As Sharon left, my phone rang. Elizabeth Crane from Meridian. Marie, I owe you an apology. We built Meridian on relationships and results. Gregory lost sight of that. Hess being removed as VP effective Monday. I was genuinely shocked. I appreciate you telling me. I'd like to offer you a partnership position. Full equity stake, complete autonomy, your own division. Name your terms. I sat with the offer for a moment. 2 weeks ago, this would have been everything I wanted. Validation, recognition, a title that matched my contributions. But something had changed. I had tasted freedom. I had built something that was entirely mine. I answered client calls in my pajamas at 7 in the morning. I turned down projects that didn't align with my values. I set my own rates. I chose my own clients. Elizabeth, I'm honored, truly. But I've realized something this week. I don't need Meridian's name anymore. I'm building something better. There was a long pause. Then Elizabeth said, I understand. That's why you were always the best we had. The offer stands if you change your mind. I hung up and sat in my living room, looking out at the Chicago skyline. I had just turned down everything I thought I wanted, and it felt absolutely right. 2 weeks passed. Late October brought cooler weather and a new rhythm to my life. I was managing 9 clients now. 4 former Meridian accounts, and 5 completely new clients I had signed through referrals. My projected annual revenue was $3.8 million. After business expenses, 95% of that was mine. I worked from my apartment, setting my own schedule. I took meetings in comfortable clothes. I went for runs in the middle of the day when I needed to think. I turned down 2 potential clients whose values didn't align with mine. I had never felt more professionally alive. I hired Sharon as my part-time assistant. She was thriving, working 20 hours a week from home, handling my scheduling and client communications with the same grace she had shown at Meridian. Then, on a Tuesday morning, my phone rang with a number I recognized. Brandon Thornton. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. This is Marie. Marie, it's Brandon. His voice was quiet, lacking all the arrogance I remembered. I wanted to apologize. I was genuinely surprised. Okay. I was an arrogant idiot. I thought the MBA meant I knew everything. I thought I deserved success just because of my degree and my last name. He paused. That week handling your accounts was the hardest week of my life. I couldn't answer their questions. I didn't understand their businesses. I realized you didn't just manage accounts. You built real partnerships, and that takes time and effort, and actually caring about people. That takes guts to admit, Brandon. Thank you for calling. I quit business school. I'm working at my dad's hardware store now, starting from the bottom, stocking shelves, helping customers, learning what real work actually means. After we hung up, I felt something unexpected. Respect for Brandon. It took courage to recognize his mistakes and start over. That week brought another surprise. An email from a woman named Claudia Becker. Marie, I worked at Meridian 4 years ago. The same thing happened to me. Gregory took credit for my client relationships, then pushed me out when I asked for recognition. I've been working in corporate consulting since, always wondering if I made a mistake leaving. Seeing you succeed independently gave me the courage I needed. I'm starting my own practice next month. Thank you. Over the next few days, 4 more former Meridian employees reached out with similar stories. I realized my story was bigger than just me. I was inadvertently inspiring other people to value themselves. But not everything was smooth. One of my new clients, Pinnacle Logistics, was struggling with a warehouse reorganization I had recommended. Their CEO, Brian Foster, was resistant to my advice, second-guessing every recommendation. In a tense video call Wednesday afternoon, he said, "Maybe we need someone with more formal credentials. No offense, but my board is asking about your educational background." The old wound opened. The degree issue. Again. But this time, something was different inside me. I took a breath and looked directly into the camera. "Brian, let me tell you something. I don't have a fancy MBA. What I have is 7 years of hands-on experience turning around companies exactly like yours. I have Heartland Retail Group's 32% efficiency increase. I have Lakeside Healthcare's successful digital transformation that's now a case study in their industry. I have Patterson Manufacturing's supply chain redesign that saved them $1.2 million annually." I continued, my voice steady. "If you need a consultant with impressive wall degrees who'll give you textbook solutions, I can refer you to several excellent people. But if you want someone who'll learn every detail of your operation and create solutions that actually work in the real world, I'm your person." "The choice is yours, Brian." There was silence. Then, "You're right. I'm sorry. I'm just nervous about the board. Let's move forward with your plan." After the call ended, I sat back and realized something profound. I had finally internalized my own worth. The degree didn't matter. The credentials didn't matter. What mattered was the value I created and the lives I improved. Friday afternoon brought a call that would change everything again. A woman named Rachel Peterson from the Wall Street Journal. "Marie, I'm writing a story about the consulting industry and how traditional firms are losing ground to independent consultants. Your name keeps coming up in my interviews. I'd love to talk with you." I was hesitant. Publicity hadn't been my goal. I just wanted to build a good business. "I've interviewed 3 of your clients already," Rachel continued. "They all say the same thing. You see them as people, not account numbers. In an industry that's become obsessed with credentials and corporate branding, you're succeeding on pure merit and relationships. That's newsworthy." I agreed to the interview. We talked for over an hour. At one point, Rachel asked, "Do you feel vindicated? The VP who fired you has been demoted. You're thriving. It's a classic underdog story." I thought about it carefully before answering. Honestly, I feel grateful. Being fired was the push I needed to bet on myself. If Gregory hadn't humiliated me, I'd still be at Meridian, undervalued and overlooked. He accidentally gave me the greatest gift: my freedom. After I hung up, I realized I meant it. I wasn't angry anymore. I was grateful. The Wall Street Journal article ran on a Monday morning in early November. The headline read, "The Great Consulting Exodus: How Independent Practitioners Are Disrupting Big Firms." I was featured prominently, though the article didn't name Meridian directly. One quote stood out. "Marie Castellano, who built a thriving independent consultancy in just 6 weeks, represents a growing trend. Experienced professionals leaving corporate structures to offer personalized service. Clients don't hire degrees," she says. "They hire people they trust." The article mentioned I was generating nearly $4 million in annual revenue with 9 clients. My phone started ringing immediately. New prospects, interview requests. A university even invited me to speak to their business students about entrepreneurship. Then, Wednesday afternoon, something happened I never expected. My building's doorman called up. "Miss Castellano, there's a Gregory Thornton here to see you." My stomach tightened. After a moment, I said, "I'll come down." I met him in the lobby cafe. He looked different. Tired, older somehow, defeated. We sat at a small table in the corner. The silence was awkward. Finally, Gregory spoke. "I read the article. I see what you've built." I waited, saying nothing. "I came to apologize, really apologize. Not because I want something, but because you deserve to hear it." He looked down at his hands. "When I hired you 7 years ago, it was because you reminded me of myself. Hungry, determined, willing to work harder than anyone else. My dad was a plumber. I was the first person in my family to go to college. I worked 3 jobs to pay for night school at a state university. No Ravenwood MBA. I was genuinely surprised. I had never known this about him. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that, he continued. I got caught up in credentials, pedigree, impressing the board. I started believing the Harvard and Wharton hires were better than the hustlers like us. I was wrong. He looked up, and I saw real regret in his eyes. Brandon dropping out was a wake-up call. He had every advantage I gave him, and he couldn't handle it because he never had to fight for anything. You had to fight for everything, and that made you better than any MBA could. Why are you really here, Gregory? Because you deserved better from me, and because I want you to know that what happened to you won't happen to anyone else at Meridian. I'm implementing new policies, merit-based promotions, performance over credentials, profit sharing for top contributors. It's too late for you, but maybe others will benefit. I considered his words carefully. I appreciate you coming here. I really do. And am glad Meridian is changing. Gregory stood to leave, then turned back. For what it's worth, you were always the best consultant I ever worked with. I should have told you that every single day. After he left, I sat alone with my coffee. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt at peace. The anger that had initially fueled me had transformed into something cleaner: self-respect and quiet confidence. Friday evening, I hosted a small gathering at my apartment. Sharon was there, along with Laura, my attorney. Thomas Aldridge and his wife came. Dr. Angela Rodriguez brought her husband. A few other clients who had become friends joined us too. We weren't celebrating Gregory's downfall. We were celebrating possibility and new beginnings and choosing ourselves. Thomas raised his glass in a toast. To Marie, who taught us all that authenticity beats credentials every single time. Sharon added, and to second chances and believing in yourself. As I looked around the room at these people who had become my professional community, I felt overwhelmed with gratitude. These weren't just clients. They were partners, built on mutual respect and genuine care. Later, as people started leaving, I checked my email and found a message from Elizabeth Crane. The subject line read, "A proposal." I opened it. Marie, I'm not asking you to come back to Meridian, but I am asking if you'd consider a partnership arrangement. You remain completely independent, but Meridian refers overflow clients to you, and you refer large corporate projects to us when they're outside your scope. A collaboration between equals. We pay you a referral fee, you pay us one. We both grow. The email continued. You've proven that the future of consulting isn't about big firms versus small practitioners. It's about finding ways to work together while maintaining our individual strengths. What do you say? I stared at the email. This was something entirely new. Not revenge, not victory, but actual partnership on equal terms. I typed a response. Elizabeth, let's talk. I'm interested. As I hit send, I realized the story had come full circle, but I was returning as an equal, not an employee. As a partner, not a subordinate. On my terms, not theirs. 3 months after being fired, in mid-December, I sat in my home office looking at the vision board I had created 7 years ago when I first started at Meridian. One goal, written in faded blue marker, stood out. Prove I belong in this industry. I stared at those words and realized the phrasing had been wrong all along. I never needed to prove anything to anyone but myself. I took the old vision board down and created a new one with different goals. Help 10 businesses transform in 2025. Mentor 5 people from non-traditional backgrounds. Build a consulting practice that values people over profits. Sharon arrived with a package. It was from Lakeside Healthcare, a beautiful gift basket and a card signed by Dr. Rodriguez and her entire executive team. The card read, Marie, thank you for seeing us as partners, not just clients. You've taught us that the best professional relationships are built on genuine care. Merry Christmas to someone who changed how we think about business. I felt tears well up. Good tears. My phone rang. A woman from San Diego named Jennifer Santos. You don't know me, but I read about you in the Wall Street Journal. I've been working in marketing for 15 years with no degree, always passed over for promotions. Your story gave me courage. I registered my own consulting LLC today. I wanted to thank you. My heart swelled. That's amazing. Congratulations. Can I ask you something? Were you scared when you started? I laughed, terrified, but I was more scared of staying small. That's exactly how I feel. Thank you for going first. After hanging up, I realized my story was bigger than just me. It was about anyone who had been told they weren't enough. I sat at my desk and opened my journal, the one Sharon had given me. I reflected on what I had learned. Your worth is not determined by credentials, but by the value you create and the integrity you bring. Degrees can open doors, but character and competence keep them open. The clients who matter most care about results and relationships, not resumes. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing that could have happened. Being fired was devastating, but it freed me from a system that would never fully value me. Pain can be a catalyst for transformation if you let it teach you instead of destroy you. Revenge is hollow, but self-respect is nourishing. I didn't set out to destroy Gregory or Meridian. I set out to prove to myself what I was capable of. The so-called revenge was simply a byproduct of my excellence and the relationships I had built through genuine care. Real success is measured not by what you take, but by what you build and who you lift up along the way. My proudest moments weren't winning clients away from Meridian. They were the scholarship fund I set up at my community college for first-generation students, the associates I hired and mentored, the people like Jennifer who found courage in my story. Grace and growth are more powerful than bitterness. I could have stayed angry at Gregory forever. Choosing to accept his apology and even partner with Meridian freed me from carrying that weight. Forgiveness isn't about excusing bad behavior. It's about releasing yourself from the prison of resentment. Christmas Eve morning, I attended a community business networking event. A young woman approached me nervously. "Are you Marie Castellano?" "I'm in my first year at community college. I want to do what you do someday." I smiled warmly. "What's your name?" "Ashley. Ashley Brennan. I'm Sharon's niece." I laughed out loud. Full circle again. I sat with Ashley for an hour, talking about business, dreams, determination, and the reality that success comes in many forms. I told her that her path might not look like anyone else's, and that was exactly as it should be. That evening, I drove home through Chicago's snowy streets, Christmas lights twinkling on every block. I thought about where I was 3 months ago. Humiliated in Gregory's office, fired, questioned, doubted. And where I was now, running a thriving business with 12 clients, generating $4.3 million in annual revenue, partnered with Meridian as an equal, mentoring young professionals, and genuinely happy. A line from the poet Rumi came to mind. "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Gregory's mockery was the wound, but the light that entered was my own power, my own value, my own voice finally speaking up for myself. I didn't steal clients as revenge. I simply stopped hiding my light under someone else's shadow. And when I shone authentically, people naturally moved toward that warmth. I pulled into my parking spot and looked up at my apartment building, lights glowing in windows where families celebrated together. I whispered to myself, "Thank you, Gregory. Not for what you meant to do, but for what you accidentally gave me. The push I needed to become who I was always meant to be." I walked inside, ready for whatever came next, because now I knew something fundamental and unshakable. My value wasn't given by anyone else. It was always mine to claim. I just needed the courage to reach out and take it. The consulting industry is changing. More professionals are leaving corporate structures to build independent practices based on relationships, results, and authentic care. I'm proud to be part of that movement, not because I hate big firms, but because I believe there's room for all of us, the corporations and the independents, working together when it makes sense, competing fairly when it doesn't. As I settled into my couch with a cup of tea, my phone buzzed. An email from a potential client in Seattle, referred by Thomas Aldridge. They wanted to schedule an exploratory call for January. I smiled and added it to my calendar. Then I closed my laptop and looked out at the snow falling softly over Chicago. Somewhere out there, someone else was sitting in an office, undervalued and overlooked, wondering if they had what it took to bet on themselves. I hoped my story reached them. I hoped they found their courage, because the truth is simple. You are not defined by the degrees on your wall or the title on your business card. You are defined by the value you create, the relationships you nurture, the integrity you bring, and the courage you show when life pushes you to grow. 3 months ago, I lost a job. Today, I have a calling. And that makes all the difference. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where someone underestimated you or dismissed your worth? How did you respond? Did you stay and fight for recognition? Or did you choose to walk away and build something new? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps others find these stories and maybe find the courage they need. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another story about people who chose themselves and won. And please share this with someone who needs to hear that their worth isn't determined by other people's opinions. Together, we can build a community that values authenticity, merit, and the courage to bet on ourselves. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminded you of something important. You are enough, exactly as you are. Your value doesn't need a fancy degree to validate it. It just needs you to believe it. Here's to choosing yourself, taking risks, and discovering that the person you've been looking for to save you has been inside you all along. May you find the courage to bet on yourself. May you build something that reflects your true worth. And may you never let anyone make you feel small again.